And it is the Saturday Coffee Klatch with yours truly, Robert Reich. And today, our guest and our friend, Kamau Bell. Kamau, thank you for joining us today. And what are we going to talk about? What would you like to talk about?
There's not much going on, but I found this story about a war in Iran that we can talk about. A new story that just broke recently, Kristi Noem being out at the Department of Homeland Security. And we're also going to talk about the Democratic primary, specifically in Texas this week.
Fabulous. Well, in terms of the war, let me just say we finally now understand Donald Trump has said why he is in the war. He wants unconditional surrender, which I thought was kind of an interesting thing to say, given that he continue all week he's been saying, well, we're going to negotiate, we're going to come to some sort of agreement, and this is just a temporary, this is a very quick little war. No, unconditional surrender. What does that mean?
Yeah, I think as we have seen this week, they can't seem to get their story straight about what this war is about. Is this a war? Whose idea was it? Was it our idea? Was it Israel's idea? So this feeds into the idea that even Trump can't keep his own story straight. What is it about?
But even in the last 5 days, we have heard him say, or Hegseth say, well, this is not really a war. Or it is a war, but it's not really a war. It is, and the purpose of it is to stop the nuclear program in Iran. No. The purpose is actually to stop the ballistic missiles coming from Iran. No, the purpose is actually to help the people of Iran and get their freedom. No, that's not quite right. The purpose is now unconditional surrender. But we don't know exactly what unconditional surrender means because most of the heads of government have been eliminated. We don't even know what the end game is because now Trump is saying he's got to approve the next head of government. Kamau, this would be a comedy routine if it weren't so damn tragic.
Yes, because we have to remember that, one of the first pieces of news that came out of the war after it started was that a school was blown up. So this is not, as much as some people want to frame this as like we took out the heads of government or we took out the people, the bad guys. We've already seen that there's casualties there of innocent lives, and even Americans have died in this so far.
Yeah,
so
at least 6 Americans so far we know of in terms of the military. We know that there are something in the order of 183 children were killed in that attack by either the United States or Israel. There's not clarity right now. So far, there's been 1,100 civilian deaths in Iran. But that doesn't even begin to tally the cost. I mean, we're spending $1 billion a day, at least, the United States as a whole. We don't know what we are going to set off in the Middle East. We've already set off a war in Lebanon in terms of Hezbollah. Israel is treating all of the proxies of Iran as if they are direct enemies and using this as an occasion to try to wipe them out. I don't know what wiping out means in the Middle East. I mean, this is really a tinderbox. The Middle East has always been a tinderbox. And remember, Donald Trump was the candidate in 2024 who said, I'm not going to be a war president. I'm not going to get involved in foreign entanglements. I don't want regime change. That was one of the reasons he was elected.
Are you saying that FIFA might have to take back the peace prize they gave him, Bob? Is that what you're implying, that he may get his FIFA pretend peace prize revoked?
He's really trying for that peace prize. I mean, he changed Pete Hegseth's department from defense to the Department of War.
Yes.
And what is it? Venezuela. He abducted the head of Venezuela, the president of Venezuela. He's still talking about Greenland. I mean, this is a man who is as far from a peace prize as what? As who?
as you can be.
As Kristi Noem.
Even Satan is like, man, settle down.
I think Kristi Noem should get the peace prize, don't you? I mean,
I feel more peaceful now that she's fired. We'll talk about that later. But anyway, I think one thing I would like to highlight that you brought up, it's costing us $1 billion a day, but I heard this stat on Democracy Now! And I Googled it to make sure it's true, although I always trust Amy Goodman, that the first 100 hours of the war cost $3.7 billion. Just the first 100 hours.
That's the upfront cost. But, once you start a war, you just keep going. And
Yeah, now, it's easier to maintain.
These are forever wars. But here's another one. A single Tomahawk missile. Now, this is just one American missile. Is so costly that it would actually keep 775 children in the United States on Medicaid for a year. I mean, once you start looking at what we are sacrificing for $1 billion a day, it starts mounting up.
Yes. And I think that some people think it's talking about the cost, like, why do you talk about the cost so much? But I think it's just what you said. There are many things that money could be spent on that would improve this country overnight almost. To just, whether it's healthcare, education, infrastructure, there's all these things that we can put that money into, and not a war that is already historically unpopular with an historically unpopular president.
Kamau, I don't know if I've ever told you. When I was Secretary of Labor, I sat down one day with the Department of Defense, the Secretary of Defense. I don't know why the Secretary of Labor and Secretary of Defense were in the same room. We just happened to be. And I said to him, tell me, you have a defense budget. At that time, it was a huge defense budget. It was like a zillion times the Labor Department's budget. And I said, but tell me, what are you using 40% of this budget? I can't understand what you're doing with it. He said, that's just in case we have a war. I said, but you mean 60% of the budget of the defense budget is not for war? No, yeah. That's for preparing for war. I said, well, 40% is in case we have a war, and 60% is preparing for war. There is so much fraud and waste and abuse in the Defense Department budget. I mean, the no bid contracts galore.
Yeah. The kind of accounting a mob accountant would love.
And yet we keep on expanding that defense budget every time there is any kind of a need or anybody mentions a need, and the Democrats are almost as bad as the Republicans. Nobody wants to be, no politician wants to be accused of not protecting America and American security.
Nobody wants to be accused of being soft on war.
That's soft on war. That's right.
Yeah. Which brings us to this quote that Trump said. I think part of this is also scaring Americans because, as I always say, most people don't pay attention to the news or politics that closely. So when Trump says something like this, he acknowledged the possibility that Iran retaliates with attacks on the U.S., which is also like, why would they do that? But here's what he's saying. And he says, we think about it all the time. We plan for it. Also, I guess. So another classic quote from President Trump. another one for the presidential library.
Thoughtful one.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing that encourages me in the midst of all this horror. Very few Americans, only 20, according to the latest poll that I have, only 27% of Americans actually approve of Trump's attack on Iran. And his approval ratings, he's still way, way, way underwater. Many more people now disapprove of him overall than approve of him. And even among Republicans, remember, we're dealing with independents who really are dropping him like a dead weight, and Democrats don't want him. But even Republicans are starting to say, this is crazy. We voted for somebody who would bring prices down and end wars, and this guy is increasing prices, and he is starting wars.
Yeah, no, which brings us to the next point of there's this question of like, well, what is this war an attempt to deflect from? And you just listed a bunch of things that this war it could be started to deflect from. So,
I think it's a huge deflection. And Epstein. I mean, look at what happened. Epstein was on the front pages until the war. I mean, for the last week, we've heard very little about Epstein. But, the Republican base still is worried and angry about the Epstein files, which means that there's pressure on Republicans. And if there's pressure on Republicans in Congress, there's pressure on Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, to continue to release more and more of the Epstein files. And there were 5 Republicans in the House on the Oversight Committee this week that voted to bring her back to Congress for the Oversight Committee and testify on why is she not releasing the Epstein files? Could it be A cover-up. Could it be?
I have to say it was the ultimate checkmate move from two of your old colleagues, the Clintons, to say, we'll show up and testify, and we would like it to be open to everyone as a way to go, we did it. Now it's your turn, President Trump.
Absolutely. You betcha. The Democrats are hoping against hope, obviously, that not only do they take back at least one chamber of Congress in the midterms, but they can say to Donald Trump, listen, our president, Clinton, and our candidate for president, Hillary Clinton, they both testified before Congress, and Donald Trump, on the Epstein files, you appear many more times than Bill Clinton. I mean, shouldn't you testify?
Yes.
What do you have to hide?
And he would say so much, so many things. Let's also talk about other things that this is distracting from. There's still all the talk that the tariffs have not worked out. There's also the jobs report that was just dropped.
Wasn't that jobs report amazing? I mean, a loss of 92. Was it million? I think it was
92,000.
92,000 jobs. Yes, not a million. A loss of 92,000 jobs. That's extraordinary.
Yes.
I mean, when you think about it, I don't remember a month where we lost 92,000 jobs. And even worse, the previous months, which were already bad, were revised downward on the basis of additional information. So we have an economy that's basically a no hire, no fire economy. I mean, if you have a job, you're not going to want to leave. And nobody's going to hire now. Nobody's hiring now because they're uncertain about the future. They think that maybe AI, artificial intelligence, is going to fulfill those jobs. And the economy is so, just nobody knows what's going on. So why commit to hiring somebody?
And I would imagine that if in your day there had been a jobs report that where the country lost 92,000 jobs, there'd be another thing that we don't have anymore. You would feel shame, or you would feel sad, or you would feel empathy for your fellow Americans, and we're not getting any of that.
Oh heavens! Empathy out of out of Donald Trump. No, but we don't have an administration, a regime that is capable of even saying. Let alone, I'm sorry. I mean, they can't even say, we feel your pain.
Yeah, we feel your pain. They can't even go that way. They can't even go that way.
I mean, the economy, let's be clear. I don't want to mince words here, Kamau. This is a shitty economy. This is an economy where there is no job growth, where prices are increasing, but you have inflation. But the Fed, which is kind of the guardian against inflation, also is worried not just about inflation, but also is worried about recession because nothing is growing. And so you get an economy that is absolutely a deer caught in the headlights. It just doesn't know, what to do, where to go. And a lot of Americans, and this is where the empathy comes in, a lot of Americans are struggling. 75% are living paycheck to paycheck. People at the top have never done as well as they're doing now, but people who are not at the top, middle class and working class, are really, really in trouble.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I heard, this is anecdotal, but I've heard this theory that with car dealerships, like if you own like a Range Rover dealership, you're still selling a lot of cars. But if you own like a Honda dealership, things aren't going as well for you as they used to. The people with money can still buy what they need to buy. But your average Americans, as we know, the middle class has collapsed, can't buy the regular sort of like get around town cars they used to be able to buy.
And if you have a car, the price of gas is going up because of the war. I mean, the latest data I have and I've seen suggests that a gallon of gas is up 34% over this last week. Jet fuel is up 58%, which means that airline tickets are going to start going through the roof.
International, they're already pretty much at the roof. As someone who travels a lot,
they're in the stratosphere, as it were.
Yeah.
I mean, people are also fertilizer. Nobody thinks about fertilizer. You need fertilizer for crops.
Yes.
But fertilizer, the key the key components of fertilizer, nitrogen and oxide, they have to come from the Middle East. They cannot get through the Strait of Hormuz, just like oil can't get through the Strait of Hormuz right now. So you've got fertilizer prices are skyrocketing, which means food prices are going up. So we have Donald Trump here, the president who said he's going to bring down prices and he's going to be the peace president. He's doing exactly the opposite.
Well, and now we find out that you were the labor secretary, but you could have been the agricultural secretary, apparently, from what we just learned from.
I know fertilizer. Listen, when it comes to shit, I am the expert. Let me tell you.
You spent a lot of your career deep in the shit.
I used to really be a pooper scooper for a living.
Yes, that's true. That's true. So let's talk about back to Iran a little bit. What is the future here? As you referenced earlier, they've taken out anybody who was a potential candidate to take over has been taken out. What is the goal? What do you think comes next? What happens?
It's a fabulous question. I mean, and it's a tragic question because if it's unconditional surrender, if that's what he's saying now, there's no negotiation. He doesn't have anybody to negotiate with. He doesn't have it. There's no obvious successor. He wants to name. He says, Trump is saying, I have to be involved. I'm going to be picking the person who is in control of Iran. Well, how is he going to do that? And who is he picking from? This is a surreal process. He thinks this is not Venezuela. He can abduct the president of Venezuela and put in the vice president and intimidate her. But here he's dealing with an incredibly large, complex set of institutions, an army that has 1 million people in the army itself, a Revolutionary Guard that has 200,000. I mean, how does Trump plan to actually end this war? He's also got to deal with Netanyahu, who doesn't want to end the war.
No, it's like, yay, a war. Yeah. And I'm backed by somebody with unlimited pockets. Yay.
Well, I'll tell you, Netanyahu loves this war because if it weren't for the war, and before that, the war in Gaza, Netanyahu would be indicted. Mm-hmm. I mean, he was
well on his way.
He was well on his way.
So
there's no end game.
There's no end game. There's no end game. I like to encourage people, if you are curious about issues in Iran, to follow Jason Rezaian, Washington Post reporter, Iranian American from Marin County originally, but just as someone who can sort of navigate what Iranians over here are thinking and what Iranians over there. He's lived in Iran. He was famously.
He's very good. I have followed him. He's very, very good.
Yeah, famously he was a political prisoner in Iran. So I think just so you can not just hear from two non-Iranians about what's going on over there.
I'm definitely a non-Iranian.
Yes.
But the war power. Let me just talk for a moment about the War Powers Act and the legality of this war. Because
I just want to set it up because this is why I love you for many reasons. One of the reasons is you are Schoolhouse Rock for adults. A lot of people have said that we're not as a country, the president's not allowed to declare war without permission from Congress. But as I've pointed out before, if you're 30 or under, you've never seen a president go to Congress and ask for permission for war. And yet you've lived around wars. Yeah.
Well, I'm old enough to remember when presidents actually did go to Congress, got war declarations. It's a quaint, old-fashioned, antiquated idea. But if you go to the Constitution, a quaint, antiquated, old-fashioned document, you find that in the absolute first article of the Constitution, the powers of Congress enumerated, in Section 8, it says very, very clearly, Congress, and only Congress, has the power to declare war, which, for the uninitiated would suggest that only Congress, the People's Congress, can actually commit the United States to warfare. It's amazing. Speaker Michael Johnson, this week, he said, no, this is not a war. We're not in a war. It's a specific, clear operation. It's not a war.
It's not a war.
And Josh,
it's like saying it's not a surgery. It's a procedure.
Did you see also Josh Hawley? He said it's only the commitment of ground troops makes it a war under the Constitution. So unless you commit ground troops, you can bomb a place to smithereens, but you're not at war.
But isn't that because when the Constitution was written, we didn't have planes, really? They would have included planes if we had them?
The founders understood. I mean, this was a big deal in the 18th century. You didn't want a president to have the power to commit a nation to a war. The nation's people had to be behind it. And, even in when I was worried about the Vietnam War and worried about being drafted in the 1960s, 1970s, we had a draft. And when we had a draft, people paid attention to wars. And presidents like Lyndon Johnson had to justify to the American people over and over again, well, the reason we have this war, the reason Americans are, in harm's way is because we have to be there because of blah, 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 blah. And he couldn't.
Blah, 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 democracy.
That's right. Couldn't do it. And Johnson obviously was not, in 1968, did not run again because the American people were so upset. But right now we don't have a draft. It's easy to forget that we are actually in a war, and this is not legal.
Yes. So and yet here we are. Yeah. So let's talk about there was a vote. Let's see, where am I? Let's see, 68. Let's see. So the House voted on Thursday. And the Senate rejected a war powers resolution. Rand Paul joined the Dems. John Fetterman joined the Republicans.
Fetterman. I'll tell you honestly, I was a Fetterman fan until he actually became a senator.
Yes,
and I don't know what the hell he's doing there as a Democrat. I mean, but even look at the House. You've got at least four House members who voted against a measure that would actually permit a vote on a war powers resolution. Jared Golden in Maine, who's not running again, Henry Cuellar in San Antonio, Greg Landsman in Cincinnati, Juan Vargas in San Diego. I mean,
and these are all Dems who voted.
These are all Democrats who voted with Republicans against having a vote on war powers in the House. I don't get it, honestly.
Yeah, no, it seems. I mean, I get the guy who's not running again. There seems to be a lot of that. Like you see, I will say the unpopular thing because I know I'm about to be out of here, and then I'll write a book about how it was a bold stance to say the unpopular thing. We're certainly going to be in Iran for a while longer. We are certainly going to need to stand up as a community and say no. There's another No Kings rally coming up soon, right on time.
On the 28th. On March 28th. Write it down on your calendars. Kamau, I think it's really important that everybody understand. Last time we were all out on No Kings Day, 7 million Americans, 7 million. It was the biggest demonstration in American history. This time we're going to hit 12 million.
Oh, wow.
Now that's the goal, and I'll tell you why. Because academics have found that when 3.5% of a population, which is 12 million people, when they stand up against a tyrant, they actually cause, that's the critical tipping point. That's how many people you need to actually get rid of the tyrant, to collapse a tyranny. So 12 million people, personally, that's what I think we've got to do on the 28th of March.
Well, and I think that when these No Kings rallies are scheduled, sometimes you're like, didn't we just have one? Is there really a need for another one? And then Trump's like, I'll give you the fuel you need to get out there. And he has done that with this war. I mean, we already had enough fuel, really, but this will supersize the fuel needed to get out there, unfortunately.
And if we didn't have that fuel, we would have the fuel in terms of ICE and the Border Patrol and Kristi. Even though Kristi Noem is now blessedly no longer with us as a cabinet member, the only good thing that Trump did so far, get rid of her.
Yeah.
Of course, he appointed her in the first place. Yeah. But ICE and the Border Patrol continue to intimidate and impose fear and brutality on Americans, on people who have been here for years, on people with green cards.
People who are contributing to their community in many ways. People who work in the community, people who pay taxes, people who are valued in their community. Yeah. I just want, before we get too deep into that, I just want to say, we need to appreciate the fact that she was fired. I've got a lot of pushback from people saying, who's saying you can't. She's not fired. She's been promoted. She got another job. I have to let you understand. If we don't celebrate some of the little victories around here, we're not going to make it.
I agree with you. I mean, totally.
Yeah.
But even
this was definitely not the plan. This was definitely not her plan to be like, I'll be in ICE for a little bit, and then I'll be I don't even know what it's called, the special envoy to the Shield of the Americas. That was not next on her moves.
Oh, that's right. But let's also be clear. She was not fired because the agents under her control murdered several Americans and have really created this a terrorist kind of regime across America. No, she was fired because on Tuesday she said in a hearing before Congress, she said that Donald Trump had signed off on a $220 million advertising self-promotion campaign in which she's sitting on a horse in front of Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, well, let's actually just play a clip because you
play
can't even imagine.
Let's see that.
Anyone who searches for freedom can always find a home here. But that freedom's a precious thing, and we defend it vigorously. You cross the border illegally, we'll find you. Break our laws, we'll punish you. Harm American citizens, there will be consequences. But if you come here the right way, your American dream can be as big as these endless skies. From President Trump and me, welcome home.
In Hollywood, we call that a sizzle reel. She made her own sizzle reel. A sizzle reel is supposed to be cheap, though, because it's advertising the thing you want money for. She spent $20 million on her sizzle reel. I would say it would also look like the kind of thing you put together if you're trying to start to internet date again, like you needed a video. But she's already dating a lot, apparently. She's got her husband and Corey Lewandowski, so she doesn't need any more dates.
That's right. He's out too. I think there was some scuttlebutt about her and Corey Lewandowski, but I'm not going to go there.
You're above it. I'm not above it. You can be above it. But I do think it was interesting that she said that Trump had approved that $220 million. And if you look at it, she did it the way Trump would have done it. The money went to friends of hers. The company that made it only existed an hour before they recorded the thing. It's a total slush fund for her friends.
But it's okay. See, it's okay for Trump to do it. Yeah. But if one of Trump's cabinet members does anything like this, I mean, they're out. Because she's grabbing, self-promotion is okay for Trump, but self-promotion is absolutely verboten if you're a cabinet member. And if you actually have Mount Rushmore in the background, I mean, Trump wants his face on Mount Rushmore. He doesn't want Kristi Noem to take over Mount Rushmore.
No, and there's a number of things she did. She overgrifted it, as we say in the business. She took the grift too far.
Overgrift.
She took the grift to a Trumpian level, and she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to box with Trump on that one. So
right. It's a warning to all Trumpers in the administration. Don't overgrift.
Don't overgrift. Don't
Just
grift
know
at a Trumpian level.
Know how far you can grift.
Yeah.
Go beyond. It's amazing.
Yeah. So, and now we have Trump has already announced he plans to nominate Senator Markwayne Mullin of Oklahoma to replace her.
What kind of a name is Mark Wayne? Is that just one? It's not Mark Wayne. It's not Wayne. It's not his middle name. It's Mark Wayne.
Mark Wayne. I wrote in my Substack that just came out this week that he sounds like the villain of a Steven Seagal film. He sounds like the guy who owns the town. Is like an asbestos magnate and is mad that his daughter's hanging out at the Roadhouse. That's what Markwayne Mullin sounds like.
I love your Substack, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
It's great.
Thank you.
It's fabulous.
Thank you. I put a lot of And in this week's Substack, I actually put up a clip of me talking to a veteran named Marie Purcell, who's the president of her local chapter in the Twin Cities of Veterans for Peace, and talked about the idea of ICE and how she believes that she hopes some of these people will start to understand that they're being given the wrong instructions and they will step out of ranks. She was herself a conscientious objector after serving tour tours of duty in Iraq. So, yes, check out my Substack. But back to Mark Wayne. I believe Mark Wayne got the nomination in the moment during the State of the Union when he tried to grab the sign out of Representative Al Green's hands. Representative Al Green had a sign up that was basically protesting Trump putting up a racist meme about the Obamas. and Mark Wayne Mullen took it upon himself to go grab the sign out of Al Green's hands, and Al Green was too fast for him, which is funny considering their age difference.
No, Al Green. Well, this is actually a good entree to the Texas primaries, because Al Green, well, he survived, but he's still going to be in a runoff in those primaries, largely because of the Texas redistricting and what they did, and they did it openly and clearly, and apparently the Supreme Court has not objected to this. They have taken districts that are predominantly black districts or black and Latino districts, and they've either pushed people into those districts, black and Latino, or they've broken them up. And that's clearly going to be, and it is intended to dilute the black and Latino vote in Texas.
Yeah, and I mean, I think people don't. I don't think I really thought about this because I think of black people as being everywhere, but like Texas is black in certain urban areas, but it's not black across the state. So certainly Houston is a lot of black people, Dallas is black people, Austin has some black people. But when you start to redistrict, what you're doing is like taking the fact that black people are populous in the urban areas, and so you dilute their power, which makes it harder for them, and then it makes it which is one of the reasons I've saw some research about. One of the things that with the Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico race is that she won overwhelmingly in black areas, but had a harder time in white and Latino areas.
This is actually interesting, and it's in Texas particularly interesting because you've got 2.9 million black people in Texas. Texas is has more black people than Mississippi, than Alabama. I mean, Texas is a huge black population. But if you're going to redistrict and you're going to squeeze those black people out of districts where you're going to dilute their votes, well, you're having a big impact. And we used to have something called the Voting Rights Act that would prohibit that.
Yes.
And the Supreme Court is apparently it hasn't officially declared that Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act is negated, but they're damn close to doing that.
Yes, and I think that, that's when you look at James Tallarico versus Jasmine Crockett, a lot of it also comes down to Texas is one of the leading the league in voter suppression, I would say. Yeah. So that there was a lot of confusion about when the polls closed, about if you're in line by 7 you can vote, but then how can you tell who got in line by 7? So Texas also goes out of its way to make sure that even if you get to vote, they're going to make it as hard on you as possible.
I think this is a kind of what they're doing in Texas and what they did in Dallas and Houston and Austin and other cities. With regard to confusing people about when they can vote and where they have to vote, I think is a dress rehearsal for the midterms. I think that a lot of Republicans in Texas and elsewhere are looking at Texas are saying, well, this is a pretty good strategy.
Yeah. I think that we have to. I had this talk with people regularly. They say, "Do you think Trump is going to try to stop the midterms from happening?" I was like, "Well, first of all, he's already trying to stop. There's no question. But I think there's also a sense that you can just suppress the vote by if you show up to vote and your polling place is surrounded by ICE by ICE and law enforcement, you might not vote. You might be
intimidated.
Yeah, you might be intimidated.
Whoa.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna. Maybe I'm not welcome here.
And also, as we know, you don't have to be a Latino to be intimidated by ICE. ICE doesn't seem to care about who they're intimidating. So
ICE is an equal opportunity murderer.
As we have found out, sadly,
it's really. Going back to Tallarico and Crockett, you can't look at that race and say that racism and genderism or sexism didn't play a part. Of course it played a part. Yeah. Because those two candidates, Tallarico and Crockett, otherwise look very similar.
Yes. Politically very close, yeah.
Politically very close. There's only race and sex do differentiate them.
Yeah, and I think that one of the challenges of Texas, as we just talked about, I think because of the way racism works, and specifically anti-black racism, it is the chances of a white male the chances of a white male Democrat like Tallarico winning is still going to be difficult in a statewide Senate race. Right. That is just because he's popular on social media, just because he went viral on Colbert, that does not equate to, as we've seen with Beto O'Rourke in the past. He was on the cover of every magazine, and at the end of the day, Ted Cruz was back. So I think that the idea being that like it's going to be a challenge for a black person to win a statewide race who's a Democrat, but it's still going to be a challenge for a white guy like Tallarico. And the thing that Tallarico has to do right now is figure out how to accept the hurt feelings of the Jasmine Crockett voters without saying a lot of the Tallarico supporters are like vote blue no matter who, and it's like that's not how this works. you gotta make people a cup of tea, let people be in their feelings.
You've got to get the vote out. This is the big issue. And in Texas, if you don't have the black vote, certainly if you don't have the Latino vote or the black vote, you don't have a chance.
And as a Democrat, certainly not. No.
As a Democrat. I mean, I think the last Democrat who held statewide office in Texas was 32 years ago? It's almost, young people today, just like they don't remember a president ever getting any war power actual declaration from Congress, they're not going to remember a statewide victory in Texas by a Democrat. But it did happen. I'm old enough to remember Lyndon Baines Johnson.
Wow. But also that's even we talk about 32 years ago, that's a different political alignment than we have now.
Totally
what a Democrat meant then is very different than what a Democrat meant now. It's so that's an incredible, it's 32 years ago might as well be 100 years ago.
Do you remember Ann Richards?
I do. And as I say that, I'm like, I do.
I remember her saying, she was talking about George W. Bush. She said, George W. Bush was born with a silver foot in his mouth.
Yes, exactly. She had a way with words. Oh, she's gone too soon.
Yeah.
So before we get out of here, do we want to highlight any of these progressive wins that we had with the election this week?
To me, the big news in North Carolina and Texas and elsewhere is the Democrats really did turn out in very, very big numbers in these primaries. And if that is any indicator, much bigger than Republicans. Many more Democrats turned out than Republicans. And this is a very good sign. Assuming that there will, in fact, be midterm elections, which is a big assumption, I think the stars are aligned very, very well.
Yes, I want to do a special shout out for Freddie Haynes, a pastor from Dallas, Texas area. I met him on an episode of United Shades of America, a very social justice minded, the best version of a Christian that you can have. He's a Justice Democrat, which means he's politically aligned on all the right things. And he is running he won his Democratic primary for Congress. Now, before I let you go, I have to get into my petty mode, Mr. Reich.
You don't. You're such a big thinker. Your petty mode is actually a kind of a big, big vision for most people.
Well, I appreciate that. So the social media video that caught my interest and made me post about it this week was the video that had been taped a couple weeks ago, maybe, but just sort of broke through. The CEO of McDonald's.
Yes, I saw that.
CEO of McDonald's, a video of him eating the new McDonald's product. He calls it a product, the Big Arch Burger. And people remarked that maybe he's not a fan of his own burger. So we can play a clip.
He looked
verklempt.
Looked sick, right?
Yeah, so let's play a quick clip.
I love this product. It is so good. That is so good. It's distinctively McDonald's. It's a delicious product. Try it when you can get it.
Yeah, so that does not seem like a guy who likes McDonald's food, which
that's
seems
that's not an advertisement for McDonald's.
No,
I think that was put on. Was that advertisement put on by Burger King?
A lot of the fast food companies have made response videos to capitalize on it. Some people say that the video's gone so viral it will sell more burgers. That's not how virality works, everybody. Sometimes it's just ooh, ooh, ooh.
There was a lot of oohing. A lot of oohing on that one.
So the thing that I brought attention to, which I put my Robert Reich hat on, was the fact that he makes around $18 to $19 million a year. So for me, I feel like if you make that much money, you could pretend. If you paid me I'm not even going to say I'm a McDonald's hater. I eat McDonald's in airports all the time because it's the only thing that I feel like I can trust. But I feel like if you paid me $18 to $19 million a year, I would really act like I loved McDonald's. I would la 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 la. I'm loving it.
Or
is all I'm saying.
you could certainly hire somebody who would look like they loved McDonald's.
Get a mascot. Where's Ronald? Has anybody seen Ronald in a while? Ronald McDonald? Like, it just seems everybody wants to be their own social media star. And that seems like a guy who wants to be a star, and his staff is like, it's not going to work out, sir.
Well, he's not only is he getting $18-19 million a year, but the average McDonald's worker is earning so little, still earning so little around the country, that you and I and everybody else, through the public assistance programs, I mean, food stamps, SNAP, Medicaid, we are basically subsidizing McDonald's.
Yes,
To pay and Walmart, to pay low wages. The only way they can get away with paying low wages is because we are picking up some of the tab.
Yes.
And that is something that we, Democrats need to talk about more.
For sure.
Listen, we're coming to the end. Kamau, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I mean, you are not exactly Heather Lofthouse, but you are a true friend of ours, and you are a great sport, and you are also terrific at this. I mean, can you come back?
First of all, I'm not here to. I want to make everybody know I'm not replacing Heather. Heather's busy. I'm happy to tap in. Heather's the goat at this. I'm happy to be here anytime you all request me. I'm happy to be a part of the family. So
well, you are terrific, and I want to just turn to just all of you out there who have tuned in, and just tell you that I know that this was a tough week. I know that you know that I know. I know that I know that you know that I know. A week that has caused many of you, including me, and I'm sure Kamau, to sometimes be frustrated and hopeless and depressed and feel like, how can we be part of this nation headed by a dictator that is taking us into a war without showing us why it is necessary, and killing people, innocent people, men, women, and children. But let me just ask all of you to keep on fighting. This is all we can do. Keep on fighting. Protect people in our communities who are vulnerable to ICE and Border Patrol. Protect the values of this country. Continue to march and protest. Make plans for being out there on No King's Day, March 28th. And also lay the groundwork for the midterm elections. Make sure that people turn out, your friends, your relatives, people in your community. Make sure that there is a system for getting people out to vote. That is critically important, as we've seen with regard to these primaries and other special elections. It is up to us, it is up to you to make sure that these dark times end. Thank you. See you next Saturday.